Great pleasure to talking to you guys today, and so kind of inviting me. I think Les put a lot of work. I think Les reached out to me like 6 months prior to book my slots to speaking. So thanks to him for a follow up and providing this platform to share our stories from our region. I don't know, many of you might not be heard or aware of our organizations from this part of the world when we live in a climate catastrophe right now. There are too many young people and young organizations working, but it's also at the same point need to understand who to support and which part of the world who suffers the max. So let me start with the Arab region, most unlikely to be heard. So let me give a backdrop of why it is absolutely necessary to support young people from the region, both in terms of capacity building, funding, providing partnership, etc. So I'll give you a glimpse of what Arab youth leadership was required and why Arab Youth Climate Movement Qatar was formed, and several of other initiatives we recently launched as a part of our extended support for the regional youth climate movement in the Arab world. So we are aware of our beautiful planet. It doesn't divide or segregate anybody on based of race, region, or religion, or anything. We all share this common world. So it's our obligation to safeguard it. I don't have to tell you this, thanks to one of the great presentation from Al Gore's climate team, where I'm also a fellow there. So we know what we are doing at the moment to our environment. And at this point of time, we know how hot the years are getting over the year, and there's been no change for the last 20, 23 years, and it's getting worse over the time. But the fact is now to look into how this temperature change are looked upon or perceived around the world. I want to bring the attention to the region which is mostly unlikely neglected. We can see the region which it has seen super red hot. That is a region or belt which covers the Middle East, top of Asia, and big part of Africa. Obviously, you can see a lot of discussion around Africa has been quite common, but how much have you heard about the Arab region, which are more or less having a significant impact of temperature rise, always exceeds 50 degrees every summer, whether it's in Iran, Kuwait, Oman, UAE, Qatar. This region has been significantly having temperature rise over the last decade, and it's going to be exponentially high. I don't know how much you've been seeing in the newspapers recently that the region is going to catastrophic temperature rise that would even make this region inhabitable, but where people's existential threat to even stability, security, and even people's living here. Literally in a decade or two, we will not see people living here. There will be huge migration. So why I want to bring this background is it is such a catastrophic region which is facing immense impact of climate change. How much is talked about? When you look at even at the political ground, we don't see much. But let me come with the youth side. How many of you heard of young people from this region working on climate and advocacy, climate justice? I may not know if you may know one or two. So how many of you even heard of our organization prior to my presentation today? I would say most likely to be an answer would be no. It would be great to hear from you later on in the Q&A. So the reason is why, because we have sort of obviously these are showing the great parts, how the current condition and how Earth uninhabitable zones mostly are in this big part of the Asia, some part of Central Africa, and some Latin America as well. So why is the question come in why youth climate movement? If you look at from a youth perspective, with such an impact of climate change on the region, how much you have heard about the political process or the youth movement from the region? A simple Google search of the youth climate movement, none from the region will show up. Obviously, youth movements are great activities, and activists around the world are doing immense work. It also has to make sure that it is inclusive, and each region should be represented in its own way, because it's quite important to showcase what's happening in the region in their own eyes. You may advocate for them, but it is their voices that has to be heard or brought to the center stage or mainstreamed. So that was one of the reasons why Arab Youth Climate Movement was actually formed. I don't know how much of you heard of this controversial crop. This is quite famous back in days when Venice was cropped out of a symbolic picture out of Davos in Switzerland when the global Davos event took place a couple of years back. So why I wanted to show is that there is a large sect of whitewashing the whole climate movement. And this is what was the necessity we found. We needed to have an organization that showcase our work, our region, our potential, our extremely great work that we have been doing, similar to that of other organizations around the world. So let me give you a backdrop of what the Arab Youth Climate Movement doing in Qatar and the region. So Arab Youth Climate Movement is a think to dying non-profit organization, which is basically looking at policy advocacy, grassroots awareness, and capacity building at a community level. We have a simple vision. We are young people who are from multidisciplinary, passionate young people who are professionals and school and university students. We come from different nationalities, from background, and that reflects the country like Qatar, which is a cosmopolitan city. So we have people from every walk of life. The vision is simple: to create a planet that is livable, and especially with a focus to the Middle East region. And the mission is to look into evidence-based research and qualitative understanding of the cultural factors, creative thinking, and also seeking a best adapted and constructive solution to human forces and practicing driving climate action with ecological losses. So idea of the vision is simple. What we are trying to do is to build a sort of an ecosystem for a future generation to thrive, basically helping them to make things more sustainable in the coming days. So we have basically three areas. One is grassroots education is one of our key areas. We have several programs under each of this main thematic areas. So grassroots education is a program we've been actively engaging over the last 5-6 years, and also coming with capacity building and community development, which is also key, which we also found as fundamental. Traditionally, the region lacked capacity in many of the aspects, and community development been quite below when it comes to climate education. Well, there are many other factors that have been a forefront, but when it comes to climate and climate education, they're a bit behind the others. And also as research and policy from a youth perspective, a lot of climate research is happening in the region, but doesn't focus young people or young people working on these areas. So we also thought of supporting research-based policy proposals to the government and the nonprofit organizations and other UN agencies. So these are the three thematic areas we've been quite actively working on the past couple of years. So now I'll jump into some of the projects we've been working under the main three thematic umbrellas I've been mentioning. Talk series is one of our quite famous or quite a known event here in Qatar, which is basically bringing international climate advocates, activists, researchers, UN diplomats, etc., to the state of Qatar. Why was this program introduced? There was a lack of accessibility to this sort of speakers in the state of Qatar, because most of these speakers or high-level events are very much constrained to students and universities. Communities' participation was very limited to this point. So we came up with this idea of having this sort of series talks in very public places like libraries, museums, and stuff, so that the community get access to these places, and these are not exclusive to a super class of students or super class of professors, etc. So we try to break that jinx so that this is accessible to everybody. Everybody can need to know what's climate change about, who are the people talking about, who are the people working globally about that. So that was the idea why we introduced a talk series. Another one was eco-literacy. So given that we Islamic faith believing country with all sort of religious belief living here, we started sort of eco-literacy using religious background, how we can bring people from different works of religious and spirituality background to understand the issues of environment from a very spiritual point of view. So we started eco-literacy programs, which used to host Eco Ramadan, like we are going through Ramadan now. We used to bring people from all walks of life, showcase what each religion does. We had an amazing speaker who spoke about the experience how Islam taught things about climate and environment, how Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity talks about environment and the religious intersections. So that's something very innovative and new. So we were glad to host Eco Ramadan last year, completely plastic-free event. It was one of its kind in the country for the first time. So another one is we were able to start first of its kind household carbon footprint application. It's an app-based study where people have to put data of their daily activities to find their carbon footprint. This project was supported by the UNESCO, US Embassy, who was our founding partner, and Ministry of Education and Ministry of Public Health. The idea of this program was to cultivate individual contribution to environment and climate change. So we thought that was a way how we can involve community make them aware that they are also part of this problem. Obviously, when you talk about climate, we look at big, larger corporates and industries. Obviously, they are the main culprit, making sure uh, they do the fast way of decarbonization. But at the point of time, we want also to show how young people can be involved in making sure that their part of daily action also contributes to climate and environment, not making sure they are not the victims, but in a way to give that sort of ownership in this fight against climate change. Because many young people keep asking, what can I do? What can I do in a small way at my community, my family? So we thought this sort of app could be very essential. And this app is one of its kind in the region, made by an NGO from the Middle East. So we were proud to have this program still running in Qatar, covering more than 1,000 students, almost 200 schools and counting. So this was the app we prompt 2 years back. It was called the Arabic Climate Movement Carbon Footprint app. It was a Middle East first emission tracking carbon footprint project launched, and we have been quite happy that it was sort of idea arising not only from giving individual or giving sort of ownership in individual fight against climate change, but also using digital tools for climate action, a sort of innovative way. So we have trained teachers, we have trained students how to use this app. The data has been analyzed, and we've been giving these updates to the necessary authorities to see how communities, lifestyles have been changing over the time. So this has been quite a successful project we've been still running in Qatar, and it's unique to Qatar because the data used in this program and the calculations are all very much specific to Qatar. We're also planning to move to take this app to other countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Oman in the coming years, in 2024, 2025, as and when it's possible. Another program is Environmental Ambassadors. That's sort of in a leadership program. We give sort of fellows. Basically, the students need to apply for this program, and we partner with each institution each year who give sort of a thematic to work around. So last year we were able to work with Smithsonian Museum through a National Geographic Explorer program, who funded the program. So the main thematic areas they were working for the ambassadors last year were marine ecology and how to enhance community, so sort of what do you call them, in a way of building community-based science or citizen science-based program. So it was basically looking at Qatar's marine ecosystem, especially dugongs. As you all might know, Qatar has one of the largest dugongs population in the world, and so we wanted to study how those dugongs particularly behave, looking at their fossils. So it was supported by the Smithsonian Museum scientists who came to Qatar, took us to a couple of sightseeing at the beaches to see some of the old dugongs which has been dead, and finding out how old it is, what might be the cause of their death, etc. So this program is basically increasing their knowledge around the science, but also giving them some leadership. So every year we select 10 to 15 young people, and this year we are collaborating with the Ministry of Public Health, and our thematic area is climate change and health. So we have thematic areas each year for each ambassadors program, and we mostly select 10 young people doing that. So every year we have been doing this for the last 2 years. So we have 10 ambassadors coming out who are empowered, who becomes our full-time members after they complete this ambassadors program. And then we have Young Reporters for the Environment Qatar. It's basically an education program we have developed in partnership with Foundation for Environmental Education. It's an international program. We are the local organization which is running this program here in the state of Qatar. This is basically a program to develop writing skills, videography, and photos to talk about local environmental issues. This is basically looking at young people who are as young as 11 to 30 years of old. They join through their schools, individuals, or by directly coming to us as the national operators for this program. The program is basically reviving the skills, finding the local issues, which can be your neighborhood issues. It can be an issue that your locality. So they wanted to highlight. So they get a chance to write a blog on our platform. So basically getting an idea to showcase the issues they were facing, maybe at the school or at their community spaces, etc. So this is basically a program which has been supported by Foundation for Environmental Education. Then comes the citizen science project. This is another project which has been also working with local partners. Also, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change is also supporting, where we are building a common man's understanding about science. So we last year we had a project which are looking at how to remove plastics from the beaches and how to use those plastics to use to make some articraft. So ideally, we were working with some local vendors to see if those plastic picked out from the beaches can be used into make any articraft. So the people who are involved are pretty much common people, and young people are also involved. So the idea is to generate the understanding of a science-based project to super common man. So it involves just normal people from normal walks of life to get involved and understand. So we teach them around what the issues of plastic pollution, how are plastic made, what is polymers, what is its connection with oil, so and so. So this is a way of generating curiosity within the community and also helping them lead that sort of project in their community. And this is open to all different ages. And these are some of our regional and local regional projects. Gulf Societal Transition Network. This is a group of we started to bring together researchers and practitioners within the Gulf Peninsula or Arabian Peninsula to form a networks of brainstorming and understanding what are the regional issues and what are the best practices they do when it coming into doing the right energy transition for the region. As you might be aware, the region is quite known for its extensive oil and gas production. So we as a civil society organization is looking at how this region can really have a great roadmap and advancing their energy transition pathways. Another one is public opinion and environment. This is an idea of basically to understand public opinion about climate change. I'm sure you might have aware of such great programs in the United States, and I'm also very much inspired by many of the programs run by Yale University, who is quite do their climate communication program. Inspired by that, we started a public opinion program last year. We published a report with around 100 to 150 people, took up their opinion in Qatar, how they feel about climate change, what does that mean to them, what does that mean to the economy, etc. This is a great way to know the public sentiments. We don't have that sort of public opinion surveys quite often that happen in the other part of the world. So we started this sort of a first time an organization is doing that sort of public opinion about what is climate to mean to them, what is environmental degradation mean to them. So this gives us a glimpse of what is communities feeling or communities pulse around this. We submitted the report to the ministry to tell them that communities are concerned about growing impacts of climate change and some of the things they have been feeling over the last many years. So its impact is not directly impacted, but at least they feel about it, they see on media, so this changes people's attitude. And this gives us an overall picture of how the community perceive climate change in their own personal space. So these are some of the great accolades we had. I'm sharing some of the pictures, what we received from various institutions here in the Qatar, from Qatar's mission to the UN, from Qatar Embassy to various international, including the United States. Some of the works we've been doing over the last many years. Some of the spaces I got to speak into, support, and raising our voices, which is absolutely necessary. So I've been doing this for the last couple of years now. And another thing we started since last year, ELCOI, I think many of you have been aware of, this is the local conference youth, which always happens ahead of Global Climate Summit, which is the UN Climate Summit. So last year before the Global Climate Summit, which is called COP, Conference of Parties, 28 last year happened in Dubai, which is our neighboring country in the United Arab Emirates. So we hosted the ELCOI for the first time. So basically what's ELCOI? ELCOI is an event where young people run events, something like what you're doing today, in a more bigger way, where we have in-person events, we bring scientists, we bring young people to talk about the climate issues, what they're doing, and what we do at the end of this event is to give a recommendation from the country to a large ELCOI. So we have a local ELCOI, regional COI, and the final international COI happening at the COP summit every year. So this year we will have in Baku in Azerbaijan. Last year it was in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So Qatar hosted its last year, and we were the local organizing organization where we organized this for the first time. So basically we had a great event for over the last 2 days. We had great speakers. We were blessed with the support of the United States Embassy here, and also Ambassador Davis was one of the speakers on the closing day. We also came up with the youth declaration, which was shared to the regional COI, which was used as a youth recommendation to the COP during COP 28 in Dubai. Dubai. Excuse me. So another one of our regional initiative was Arab Youth for COP. So I don't know if you might have heard of COP is the Conference of Parties, like I mentioned. So there was lack of youth participation from the Arab region. Keeping that in mind, we started this initiative ahead of COP27 in Egypt. So before Dubai COP, it was in Egypt in Sharm el Sheikh. So we found that over the years, of someone who has been in the climate space found that there's a lack of youth representation at this international summit. So why it is important? Because it's always important to have stories shared by people who lived it. I mean, I can sit in the comfort of a table and a chair and speak to you about an issue in Africa or Asia, but somebody who experienced that and sharing their stories from a very personal perspective make a huge difference. So we thought the region have a lack of that youth representing, whether from Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, Palestine, etc. So we thought this would be a really a good way to showcase the impacts and that how is that impacting especially young people. So we started this program last year, and this was quite successful. We started with a very small number of young people. We had 4 young people who attended COP27 in Egypt. They were from Tunisia, Jordan, and Libya. And following the year, we got also support to youth MENA Climate Week. These are the local UN affiliated events, which happens every year in the region. You have one for Latin Americas. We have one for the MENA region, which is Middle East and North Africa. Then we also have Africa one, we have South Asia one. So we were able to send 5 young people from Tunisia, Yemen, Jordan, Bahrain, and Somalia to go to MENA Climate Week. We supported their participation and providing youth updates and sessions there. And we were also fortunate to send 10 young people at COP28 last year in Dubai, where young people started from Bahrain, Jordan, Sudan, Iraq, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Libya, Palestine, and Lebanon. Were able to send the young people who shared their stories about climate, what they're doing through their NGOs, what they have been doing at their schools, universities. So this is where we are trying to bring, the voices from the region collectively. So that was the idea. And why COP? Because COP is the ultimate climate platform. There you get to meet your leaders, you get to meet international agencies, you get to meet fellow young people. So it gives us a platform where your voices can be heard at the highest level. So we thought there was a lack of that representation. That's why we started Arab Youth for COP. So Arab Youth for COP is one of its kind of, again, an initiative in the region. There's no another event initiative like this supporting young people's participation, which is completely supported by youth, exist to the date. And also, we were proud to start another platform last year called Arab Youth Climate Action Platform. Again, finding inspirations from our friends from the global north, we thought of starting a platform where young people can engage, get opportunities for funding, get opportunities to attend the event, and also share and train and build their capacities. So this platform was actually opened last year, still under working. It's not completely happened. It was announced at COP28 last year in Dubai. So this platform gives us a place for young people to showcase their project. We have membership, and we are targeting members of like 5,000 members by end of this year. The idea is this platform is to provide a safe space for discussing about climate without any barriers or any political or national boundaries, and also providing sort of funding to some of the projects through competitive funding initiatives, and also at the same time to provide capacity building training. So we will be having occasional training programs, which is completely free. Some of the programs will be certified, which will get certificate for participation. So this is basically trying to involve young people's participation and also creating a collective youth movement from the region. So one of the things which lacks in the region is a database of young people. So this platform would really be a database for young people, filtered based on the countries. So it will be containing members from all the 22 Arab League countries will be part of this platform. So yeah, that's the overall of what we've been doing, how we started, where we are. So that's thank you from me. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take any questions from you. And thank you for listening to me.
It's so exciting to hear about other youth groups, not only around the United States, because that's all I can seem to find when I look things up online, but from around the world. To have found you guys with the Arab Youth Climate movement in Qatar, that's amazing. And I want to thank you for sharing about it, about yourselves, and for telling us about like giving us a perspective on what it looks like around the world. And it looks like we have a question in the chat. It says, which of the Arab Youth Climate Action Movement Qatar's projects have been the most impactful? And how would you recommend that others could possibly implement strategies from that movement?
So I'll start from the second question. So thanks, Laura, for the question. One of the strategies we try to do is to look for resources and things that are very much close to us rather than replicating something from the global north or Asia, because we are culturally diverse. Our political system is diverse. Just to give an example, I mean, we don't have like political marches here. They are forbidden by law. So we don't have Fridays for Future marches in our country. So how do we do things differently? That's what also the way we try to challenge the mainstream, the climate activism, because people say activism is marching on the street, making your leaders, shame them. This works in your part of the world, but sometimes it doesn't work. No, 100% doesn't work in our part of the world. So we try to innovate in a way how those things work within our boxes. So one of the big success or strategy YCM did against many of the youth organizations, I wouldn't say there are not other youth organizations in the region. Many failed in the past. Before AYCM, there were two organizations here in Qatar too. They failed miserably. They never got a registration as an NGO like us, obviously because of the thing that they were replicating a Western concept of youth activism or NGO association by completely going against the national narratives or leaders or being super aggressive, which doesn't work in our part of the world. What we try to do was a more diplomatic approach where we get to approach our governments, also have them on the seat, also having us in their discussion. And I think in that way we succeeded. So strategy was simple, is to have how we can maximize outreach to working with everybody. I mean, when I say everybody, it doesn't involve fossil industries, mostly governments and other organizations. So we try to build a sort of a bridge, which is past nobody tried. And I think the big winning part, or many other organizations in the Middle East and the Gulf countries can replicate from us, is that we strategized around the institutional and cultural system within our communities that gives us more leverage and outreach. And out of the programs which we did, all the programs were had a severe, big impact based on the age classes. The Earth Talks was super hit with community people. We get a lot of inquiries about who's our next speaker. Last year we had 3 speakers. So this year we didn't have any speaker to date. We are looking for one of the speakers to come on climate and finance. So we always get inquiries like who is our next speakers, and we also look for partners to support us and funding those things. So Earth Talks is something with the larger community. With the youth group, the app is super quite famous in the country, and that's why I said we have been getting calls from UAE and Oman and Saudi Arabia to take this app to the other country. Obviously, to take the app, we have to work on the math, because it's not easy to do the math on the calculation, because we need experts to do that. So these 2 programs in its own way have greater impact. Like I said, it's the one is for the larger community, one is youth, and also the Gulf Societal Network is quite famous because we have a number of researchers within the region are growing, and that also is helping us to build the network, sharing their best practices, their research work they've been doing, because many of the people research are not exclusively based in here. They are living in London, in our States, they're living in Asia, Japan. So this brings this network together to brainstorm and understand what are the research they have been doing in different parts of the world. So these are all the programs are quite impactful based on the who you are addressing to. So that's my answer to that.
I didn't realize that that there's differences in the ways that you have to present climate action around the world. Like, it's impressive that you guys found that a diplomatic approach, a very more using your information and just speaking is what works there. Have you faced adversity in the leading the Arab Youth Climate Action Movement? Has the
Yeah.
group itself had challenges from I don't know, the community, the government?
Yeah. Obviously, from the authorities and the communities at some point in the very beginning, we did have challenges because the activism is not something known to many of the organizations, many of the people within the Gulf countries. If you look into the Gulf countries in this part of the world, it's called GCC, the Gulf Governing Council, which involves UAE, Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman. So people get confused when I say Gulf. It's Gulf of Mexico. Now this is the Gulf region here in the Middle East. So most of these countries don't have the elected government. So this are we have a kingdom system. Obviously, you know that. So we have restrictions in having civil society groups. So over the past, civil society was like the anti-government notion, like in the West. So it doesn't thrive over the coast. So they miserably failed because they couldn't showcase why they were here to voice for the community. What we did tried was to really voice young people's voices and aspirations um, in a way that was very Western organized. We were like, we want change, it has to do it. And then we were very rhetoric how we wanted to do that. And it also had a backlash in the beginning. We never got to work with government. And obviously, without working with the government, sometimes very difficult to organize events. So that was a big setback in the early age. And it also didn't help us to get our registration for some time. And this only happened after we really showcased our work in the community over a year. And then we applied for the application to become an association. And then it got approved. So it showed what it was that when you start working for the community, showcase to the authorities that you are there for the young community. You want to show what young people can do at the very community level. They were happy to support you. And rather than you going anti, build a network within the region and who they will listen to. And we built a network before we even go to registration. We didn't register an organization and then went for our work. We did the other way around. We started doing a work over a year, took this report card and showcased this. This is what we did. This was the community participation. This was young people participation. And then the narrative changed and it was easy. And also looking into media and community here, they were also not very supportive. Even the word having activist to my name was something very difficult for them to digest. In the beginning, they keep calling me Neeshad as a climate advocate. It was more diplomatic name than an activist. So they always used to call me climate advocate Neeshad, climate advocate Neeshad. So that was quite sort of well positive to some extent, but they don't used to have that very sensitive words activism and stuff. But now things have been changed over the many years. Now everybody's an activist. Nobody cares what name you entitled. So things have been changed, but we had our own difficult times when we were called activists and getting support. And also a big part was funding. I mean, we never used to get any funding from local organization. Um, those have been changed over the years. We've been getting support for many of our programs from many international local organizations. I see the question from Lauren again. The inspiration was so I was at one of the COP, and I was the only guy who was below 25 age at that time from the region. And I was surprised to see many of the young people from different part of the world sharing their stories from their villages, their cities and homes. And I felt that there was a lack of young people from the Arab Middle East and especially from the Gulf Middle East countries, and that prompted me to come back and start the organization. I was involved with other organizations at the moment as their Middle East representative, but I didn't have an organization of my own at that point of time. So it was around 2019, I believe, and then this prompted me to have an organization that really bring the youth voices. And over the time, we grew with the new programs like Arab Youth for COB, and making sure young people get the opportunity to such international events. Yeah, so that was a big moment for me when I realized the lack of representation, and then the new story with the Arab Youth Climate Movement, we learned how to work with our sort of governments. And not to make our organization more westernized, but obviously do work with them. But your local aspirations should be something within the local political and dynamic system you have, rather than just being a copy paste to that doesn't fit to the your system. So what we tried to do was that was the second learning process. After first was the moment when we realized why we need an organization. Then when we started, we looked into how that organization should run. So that was two big inspirations to get the success what we have today.
Wow. So there wasn't ever like, or this is a pretty new thing for Qatar to have a these groups, and it seems pretty accelerated almost. Like you've started the Arab Youth Climate Action Movement and faced advocacy, and now you are a part of uh, the Global Climate Panel, the COP. I don't remember what that stands for, but um, I'm just curious, how many students are involved in the Arab Youth Climate Action movement, in general, like that would stay for maybe a period of 2 or 3 years at one time?
Yeah, when we have a huge database of members, so memberships are free for anybody. The board is like who makes a decision. So I'm the head of the board. So we have 10-member board. We have 6 women and 4 men who are on the board, who decides or who takes the decisions on behalf of the board. The database of young people are like 500 to 1,000. I don't know what it looks like at the moment. So when there is an event or initiative, we share with that group so they get to know how to get involved with our programs. Um, so we don't know who sticks and who doesn't stick as a member, but within the board, people are very. We do have a sort of a huge due diligence to make sure they are stick. Our board members are with us for the last 3 years. A couple of them goes and comes because many of the students, when they complete the universities or school, they go out of the country to study. So that's a challenge when they leave the country and come back. But they come back sometimes. Some people who went back and joined the profession joined us, but some didn't stick back because they never came back, went to the US and studied and they got a job there, they stick out. But many at some point of time went on with their personal life and stuff. So we don't restrict, but we have a half of the board always with us since we founded. So rest of the 5 or 4 keeps changing based on, obviously we also change them sometimes when we find they are not very active enough. But as a board, we are very much careful about who joins the board, what sort of capacity they provide or information or support they give to the strengthening the board. But membership is free. Anybody can sign up based on their interest. We have interest areas. So some of the times if we have a beach cleanup, we call everybody. If there is an event, also we invite. There's a specific project, we invite a few of them. Like when we had Elcoy, we wanted an expert who can be a rapporteur, so take notes. So we call very few, like 10 people only. So out of 100, we selected 10 to be rapporteurs over the 2 days. So they are like basic, tasks. Also, we have some social media team who are doing pro bono, and also we have a paid social media team working. But pro bono people work with our paid one to get known how to use social media, impactful videos, how to create a post, etc.
Wow, 1,000, like thousands of students, thousands of members. That's a large body. I think at that point, having a flow of members is exactly what you need with having that many people.
And
I was
absolutely. So that's what I think. Like if you look at organizations in Qatar, I mean, we keep saying fast. I mean, we are the only organization which are officially registered by the state. There are many youth groups at the universities, but the impact is super limited to universities or their classes or schools, right? We are a national organization. Our impact is national. And students from all these youth groups who have their own programs in the schools are member of us. I mean, because if they want to go national, if they want to raise their level beyond the school, they eventually have to find a larger organization to be part of. To date, we are the only one, and we are proud. I mean, we are proud, and also this gives you a understanding that how difficult it is to have an organization like this in a country like ours. So that's a two side of the story. So we were happy that we demonstrated that, which our institutions like they have been part of, and another side, how difficult it is to have an institution like this because it's not easy to set up. It took us 5 years to who we are today.
Yes, I want to circle back to the research that the Arab Youth Climate Action movement has conducted. Like, could you talk more about the citizen science research and what you guys have discovered about public opinion on climate change?
So public opinion on climate change is published. I can send you the link, so you may get to know. I don't know where it's. So that was published with I forgot, Wilson Center. It's a think tank based out of DC. So I'm one of their fellows, so I published that there. So it's quite interesting. I mean, it's sad to say that people still completely don't believe in climate change. They think this is a natural phenomena. We also did a video before start of this campaign, going to public place and asking like, what does climate change mean to them? And we were surprised. A couple of answers were super negative. That they don't believe in climate change. They said it's a natural phenomenon. And they're publicly, I mean, they're voicing over with the video, and they're like they know it's going to be published. So the public opinion study was quite an interesting one to see with the age group, which are younger age class, had really a good understanding of climate change through media, through studies, or through all the social medias too. And if we go to the bigger, larger age, like my father or grandparents, they're a bit reluctant to believe because they are not a big science followers like us who got to go to university and study at this age. But you can find that differences between that age, and also people's understanding of like we were asking what will you do to make a difference. People are trying I will do this and stuff, and they're mostly looking at lifestyle changes. So that was an inspiring study. So we had like a 15 public opinion questions in the survey. At the moment we only published 3, so we'll be publishing the next level as and when we progress. So we got the data for all the 15 questions. So I mean, I don't know, in the research community, it is that you don't publish everything together. So you publish whatever questions you want as a first day of a research paper, and then you write another piece of research paper. So we are doing. In terms of the citizen science project, this is basically we used one of the programs with us at Smithsonian scientists when they were here in Doha to take this community people to our beaches to see how these beaches, how these plastics are found, because they are understanding that plastic are super cheap, but they really don't get where this come from. I mean, especially we are quite used to have this grocery bags right comfortable. Even if you buy a bottle of water, they give you a grocery plastic bag. So we tend to build their awareness and see how they can see the breakdown of how plastic is made. And they were taken to beaches and showcase, see, this is a 10-year-old plastic, this is a 5-year-old plastic, these are over years, because they are people who are working from the fossil side, so they get to understand some part of plastic also. So we were trying to build that sort of community's awareness to some of details rather than just, hey, you stop plastic. I mean, these are narratives you hear now and now. Say no to plastic, but why? And what is this that to do? And we got them when we did this one sightseeing in one of the beaches. We saw some birds and turtles eating this plastic, and they are dead. So they wanted to show, like, see, this is what happened when they do. So this gives them a live demonstration of what it is, and breakdown of science, and also awareness at the same time. So the citizen science is basically building capacity of the community. And like I said, it was open to any age community members. It was not restricted just for young people.
Yeah, we have a similar feeling of um, in our public opinion in the United States, mostly of older people as well, that are looking at climate change as a natural phenomenon that is kind of just a thing. It's going to happen. We can't adapt to it. And of course, younger people are also the ones that are involved mostly. We're thankful for every young person that is involved, and for every older person that will like coach us and lead us like you are for your group. And so I wanted to circle back again to the like motivations for climate change and ask if you could talk a bit more about the intersection of climate action and religion in Qatar.
Yeah, very well. But so one of the program, like I mentioned, was eco-literacy. So eco-literacy program was basically looking at the religious side. Obviously, we're an Islamic faith believing country where we with people from all the faiths lives here. So we wanted to use how faith-based understanding of environment can also put narrative, because given the fact that people are very religious when it comes for the religious people, of course, from any faith. So we thought, given a religious country like ours, it could be another way of reaching out to community. I mean, why we choose religion was since the Pope coming up with the Pope's declaration for climate, and last year, and the Muslim communities also came up with the declaration for climate action. We thought the religious communities globally is also pushing for the religious way of reaching out to communities. So we thought, why don't we use this sort of engagement to reach out to community? Because our mosque here, our masjids are full of believers who comes quite often. And why we started the program last year in Ramadan, because Ramadan people are very more religious and pious than rest of the other 11 months. I mean, so we thought, why don't we target those sort of specific months of like spiritual months like Ramadan to reach out to people within our community. And at the same time, we thought, why don't we involve everybody? So we organized a community iftar, which is the fast breaking ceremony we do during Ramadan. And we brought other community members to discuss what their religions talks about environment conservation, what Islam talks about. It was such a cool initiative where we unfortunately couldn't do this year, obviously, with so many things going around in the region. We had to cancel the public event. But last year was quite a successful. We got encouraged this year, like, are you hosting it? We want to stay back to attend this event. So we saw that interest in the communities from different religions. Like, hey, we wanted to attend. My kids were so happy to be there, and our parents was there. So that sort of discussion from a spiritual angle also is very helpful. So what AYCM does is, like, we go beyond the conventional climate advocacy, just only concentrating young people, but rather going beyond that. So that's how this whole idea of eco-literacy program started. And we also at the moment talking to our authority of religion here at the government ministry to see how we can use the space of the praise the masjid, to talk about environmental issues through the what do you call imams. The imams are the priests at the mosque. So to use those spaces to talk about environmental issues. So that's a program we have put the proposal to the Ministry of Religion and see if that comes out. That would be a big game changer, given that using those spaces to talk about environmental issues. And obviously, we'll try to continue our eco-literacy program and also host the Eco Ramadan feast again next year. So that's something we really see have also potential. I mean, we want to cover everything. So many programs covers young people, citizen science-based community, people who want to know more on the scientific aspects of climate, like the network we have, and through religious way also to find people who believe religious way of understanding environment may change them or bring changes to the community. So we explore all the spheres, how we can build that eco-conscious society. That's the idea. So involving everybody.
Yeah, I like that way to reach people through like connecting religion and science. I think it's similar, maybe, yes, I would say it's similar. In the United States, here where we live around the Great Lakes, we have the Anishinaabe, indigenous peoples who are using indigenous teachings, like our keynote speaker at the beginning of the day, who was talking about indigenous knowledge and climate climate stewardship. Is
Yeah.
there like, what is the knowledge that you share from religion that connects to climate change through Ramadan, like last year?
Yeah, I mean, Islam talks about environmental stewardship. I mean, it is told that each one of individuals who come to Earth is responsible to conserve the Earth. It's the planet they should conserve. And a lot of the scriptures beyond Quran, the holy book of Islam, talks about how conservation is part of their obligation as a Muslim to live on the world. So it always talks about, I mean, and these are not rightly brought out. I mean, some of the scholars who have written about that actively point out towards how environmental protection is an obligation, and being stewardship of environment is a part of a pious human being. So we were able to bring that, and one of our speakers last year on Islam and environmentalism is today leading a new Islamic declaration at the UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, in Nairobi in January, came out with Islamic declaration for climate called Mizan. So that's how they wanted to show how Islam was also part of the collective actions from the religious perspective. And the big moment came when Pope Francis came up with the idea of declaration from the Christian community to the world. So I think from Islamic perspective, it's always necessity. And why we choose Ramadan? Because Ramadan is known to be quite most pious month for all Muslims who are observing fasting, try to lead a very pious life, and not doing any mischiefs and stuff like that. So we thought this is the right time to target the communities from our faith. So this was an inspiration, and obviously people were not aware of this at many of the time. So we thought this was our obligation also to showcase that even from religious perspective, conserving environment, conserving environment is directly related to climate action. So that also will open eyes of our leaders, our people, our young people, everybody. So that was the idea and the inspiration we received. How Islam and environmentalism has been leading environmental movement over the years, but obviously people don't tend to read what it is, and what they only read what they want. So it was a nice way to bring from a religious perspective what it's talk about environment for betterment of the community and the society.
Wow. That it's such a good outlook, and it's to hear something that's so different from um, life here in the United States, but so similar for sharing the same climate and I guess we wouldn't share the same climate, sharing the same
Mhm.
world with the same climate change that um, we would all like. We need to know about all of the perspectives. Is
Mhm.
there, well, we have a little bit more time. Is there any way, something that you would recommend to students to consider um, going forward about climate change and how we can teach that to others who don't know about it as yet?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when we started also, I forgot to mention, when we did the carbon footprint project, we did a sort of gathering of parents, teachers, and students who took the survey, which is the app which gives you your carbon footprint. The idea was that why we invited the parents and teachers at that point of time. These are the two people involved in young people's day-to-day life. Either you go to school from the morning to afternoon, and the parents from evening to the next morning. So the idea was to involve them in this. So we wanted to actually build the curiosity around the parents who are not very much aware of the science happening around climate, and they are busy than us. I mean, most of the time our parents out here are busy on day-to-day life. So we thought this was a great way of involving them. Even some cases, we also invited some grandparents to join us. So the idea was to build this sort of a system where the young people who get the knowledge through our programs and our app and stuff take this back to their school, take it back to their home, and share with their family. So we found that big part of that is helping us, because the teachers who were part of our program, you might have seen in one of our posters that we trained almost 600 teachers about this initiative, so that when the students come with questions, they can answer it in advance or reach out to us. So what we heard that a lot of parents started calling them, asking, where do we find more information about climate and environmental issues facing locally? How did this start? Because the kid went home and started asking his parents this question, like, I got this data about electricity consumption. Mom, what's the electricity consumption of us? That shows this is our footprint from electricity consumption. So my footprint means my environmental impact. So this sort of curiosity was generated within the family, and I think that's the best way I can recommend any people. It don't have to be an app, but sort of having this dialogue within the community, family spaces, community spaces, to talk about environmental issues. What is that matters to you and your region or your country? So that would be an absolute way how you can build that sort of consensus within the community. Because if communities don't act, I mean, neither our leader in an elected or non-elected government will not act. So when you build that strong community base, people automatically listen to you. And for us, our experience was that people now listen to us because they know we have a big base of people who understand these issues, and that's why their opinions have been changing over the years. So my advice would be build that momentum within the community. It need not have to be forming a new organization. It can be an individual. It can be being part of an existing organization. It can be part of the school sustainability programs. So idea is to showcase that, and you talk about, I mean, either you can be that example or you can replicate somebody who is doing that. So you can be the leader of your own. You don't have to be, follow someone. So you can be your own leader and do that from your own side. So my big recommendation is that to build that sort of concerns within the community about these issues, mainstream it, talk to your people around you, If they are not a believer, it's easily there's a lot of presentations and data to showcase to break the myth on climate, and it is simple now. I mean, for me at least 5 years back to talk about climate change in the MENA region was difficult because we live in a very arid climate. 9 months of our weather is super hot, but people did not know that that temperature race is hitting 50 degrees now. I mean, they said it's hot, right? So we are blessed to have air-conditioned homes and air-conditioned hotels and cars. So we were not used to it. We felt that this is there. This is there, and this has been always that way. And then we started getting extreme weather events. We got extreme rain last year, which completely destroyed a couple of great infrastructures here. Then people started to get to understand what are extreme weather events. For your information, I used to give examples of forest fires, very quite known in your part of the world, in California. But now we have forest fire in Yemen, in Turkey, in Lebanon, which was not in the past. So now we don't have to search for examples. The climate impacts are getting visible closer and closer. We cannot say forest fires because we don't have forests because we are a desert country. But our temperature rise and our extreme weather events like the rain are getting more frequent and desert storms are getting frequent. These are the wake-up calls for us in the region, which is getting more and more frequent over the years. So now we get example to tell people what is climate change mean to you and to us in our own countries. You don't have to look elsewhere to tell that the sea level rise may take off Bangladesh or New York City. The sea level rise will wash off our shores like Doha, the capital of Qatar, Dubai, in UAE, etc. You don't have to go beyond to check for examples. So that's how you can build that sort of knowledge to your community, and it starts with the family. I mean, you don't have to. Family and friends is your first circle to people where you can build the consensus that climate change is happening, and it is super proved by science.
Well, thank you for sharing your time with us. We're just about out of time. And I would like to tell you guys about the next session. The next session is going to be in this room, Eric Fine, and in the next room, Charlotte McCurdy. Thank you again, Neeshad, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for listening. Have a nice time, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you.